The way I still get nervous every time I record is not okay. But anyways, hi, my name is Emmy and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a sort of different kind of video for you guys. It is a story time video. And I'm going to tell you the story of about how I ended up in South Africa. So once upon a time in a faraway land. Okay, no, wait. So before I start, I actually want to make an announcement real quick, which is the fact that I created a new channel. A new YouTube channel, but it's in Japanese. And the very first video in that channel is going to be about this exact topic of how I ended up going to South Africa. So that's going to be its own thing. If you are a Japanese speaker, then go give that channel a follow. Or if you're a Japanese learner and want to be crushed by native Japanese, which is not for Japanese learners, then go follow that channel. Or even if So today's gonna be a chill video and I'm gonna tell you about how I ended up in South Africa. So basically, for my whole life, I wanted to go to Canada. Canada was my dream country. Canada was my promised land, guys. Which is very random, even if I think about it now, not gonna lie. But basically, here's the context. So I am half Japanese, half American. That's why I sound really American, but I grew up my whole life in Japan. And since I can remember, since I had a brain that could think and that could dream, I wanted to go abroad. And so there was that side, but also there was a side of the English language. So I did speak English growing up and I had no problem listening and speaking, and I talked to like a little American girl. But because I went to normal Japanese schools, I couldn't read. When I got into university, I still felt like if my Japanese was 100, like native level, I felt like my English was about a 60. Like speaking English was really stressful for me and I couldn't read and write very well. And so when I was in university, I really wanted to do an exchange student program. I wanted to study abroad for a year, because I thought, okay, if I live in an English speaking country for a year, then surely my English would get the booster that it was needing. And so in university on my third year, I applied and I was supposed to go to Montreal, Canada. At the time, for me, that was a genius plan because Montreal is in Quebec, which is the French speaking region of Canada. And at the time I was studying French a lot. So I was like, girl, this is perfect. I can become a native in English, but I can also practice my French. I was like, this is a genius plan. And then a miracle happened and we somehow had the money for me to do that. And everything was set in stone. And the time that I was supposed to go to Montreal was September of 2020. And I think you remember what happened in 2020. In January of 2020, I was 20 at the time. In Japan, being 20 is a huge deal. And in January, there's like a whole, there's a day called the Coming of Age Day where they celebrate the 20-year-olds. And then for that, my church asked all the 20-year-olds in our church to write a little something for the church newsletter. And I remember I wrote it. And then for whatever reason, I chose to put a verse from the book Isaiah. And I'm going to read that to you guys because it was foreshadowing, to say the least. So it's Isaiah 55, verse 8 and 9, which says, "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, neither are your ways my ways, declares the Lord. As the heavens are higher than the earth, so my ways are higher than your ways, and my thoughts than your thoughts." For whatever reason, I wrote that on the newsletter. And then when the thing came out, my mom came up to me and she was like, "Emmy, why the heck did you write that verse?" And she was like, "No, Emmy," she was like, "the Lord spoke that verse to me twice in my life. And both times, horrible things happened right after that." And I was like, well, mother, that is terrifying. Don't say such things to me. Anyways, COVID happened and my Canadian dream was washed away into the abyss of a virus. And I remember there was a pastor who prayed for me, but he was like, "Yo, Lord, I pray that you would show Emmy why you want her in Japan right now. And I pray that at the end, she would look back at this and be praising you, Lord, for keeping her in Japan in this moment." And it's a beautiful prayer to think about now. But at the time I was like, no, please stop. I was like, don't pray that. I was like, "Pastor, sir, you're not understanding the assignment here. I want you to pray so that I can go to Canada and have my Canadian life." And I remember literally thinking that, but guess what, guys? That is exactly what happened. As in, that prayer, not I didn't go to Canada, but the prayer, I know exactly why the Lord didn't allow me to go to Canada. I know exactly why the Lord wanted me in Japan at that time, because Because so in September of 2020, I met a girl called Paulina. If you're like an OG subscriber, you might remember her, but she is my Mexican best friend. I met her face to face for the first time in September and we clicked instantly. And then for the next year and a half, like we were like this. And it's terrifying for me to even think that, if I had gone off to Canada, I would have never met Paulina, who became such an important part of my life. But it doesn't end there. So because Paulina is Mexican, even though her English is perfect, that really made me interested in Spanish. And then I started studying Spanish, but then I have an attention span of a goldfish. Well, I don't think it's about my attention span. I really struggle to keep myself motivated. And then out of nowhere, I suddenly had this idea of, what if I make a YouTube channel? And the idea behind it was that if I make videos about me learning Spanish, then I can look back at it and it'll be a cool like motivator to see like, wow, I didn't know Spanish at all in the beginning, but look at me now, like I am progressing. I wasn't like a YouTube type of person, so I don't know why that idea came to me, and I had no idea of how to edit, but I found a tutorial on YouTube how to edit on iMovie, and then 2 weeks later, after having that random idea, I don't know why, but I made a YouTube video. And then pretty early on, I think on like video number 3 or number 4, I started realizing that the making video part was really fun. And about after a year of making YouTube videos, I realized this is what I want to do in my life. Like, not a YouTuber necessarily, but I want to be making videos. And I was like even starting to look for film schools and stuff. So it's literally crazy because I had to stay in Japan instead of going to Canada. I met Paulina, and that's why I started doing Spanish, and that's why I started doing YouTube, and that's why I discovered that I want to do this video thing. And before that, I didn't know what I wanted to do with life. So that's, anyways, thank you, Lord. And so after I graduated university, I took a gap year. I went to England first without having much of a plan. I only had a plan for the first 10 weeks, which I did a Bible school. And after Bible school, that led me to the Isle of Man. I spent a summer in the Isle of Man, and it was the most incredible experience ever. And it really changed my life because in the church that I was going to, because fun fact, 10% of the population of the Isle of Man are South African. And so anyways, in the church that I was going to as well, there were a bunch of South Africans that I got to know. And these South Africans in the church were telling me about this very specific film school in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And the connection is that the church that I was going to in the Isle of Man was connected to the church in South Africa, Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And that church was connected to the film school. Ta-da. And initially I was like, guys, I'm not gonna go to South Africa, because at the time I really wanted to go to Latin America, because okay, I forgot this point, but I first wanted to go to Canada, then I really wanted to go to obviously Latin America, because I did Spanish and I could speak Spanish at that point, and I was so keen on spending like a year like properly in South America, or like Latin America, and Mexico and Colombia and Ecuador and Peru. And so when the South African thing came up, I was like, guys, I don't have time to go to another continent. I was like, thank you for the information, but I'm not interested. But then it was really weird, because there were a lot of things at the time. There were like different opportunities that I like could have taken, but this South African film school thing, even though South Africa was flipping random to me, I was like, that's not a Spanish speaking country. This film school thing kept on just coming back to my mind, and all I can say is that I think it was the Lord. But after a while, I started like actually looking into it, and it actually seemed like a really, really good option for me, for what I was looking for. It seemed actually like the best option. And I thought about it and I prayed about it for a very long time. And then eventually, when I was in the Canary Islands, I was like, I think I want to do this. I think I want to go to South Africa. However, there was one problem, which was the fact that if I wanted to go from the next January, I did not have enough money. And basically I had two options. Either if my parents could somehow loan me money for rent and tuition for the year, then I could go. Or I will wait a year and make money and then go a year later. And as I was praying about it and asking advice about it, I really felt like I had to go the next January, which is actually in retrospect kind of crazy, because this year, like as in like the year after, it closed, or not, it didn't close, but like it's on pause at the moment. They're not doing the course this year. So if I had decided to go the year after that, it wasn't available like for this year. I spoke to my parents and it seemed like it was possible for them to lend me money, which, thank you, Lord, I am incredibly privileged. However, they weren't keen on supporting me, because they were like, that is insane that you want to go to South Africa. And then came a week somewhere, like I think end of October, where I was like, I need to make a decision this week. And then I was praying, I was like, Lord, if this is from you and you want me to go this year, I was like, please change my mom's heart. And I prayed that prayer, and literally 3 days later, I had a phone call with my mom, and she had done a complete 180. I forget the reason, but the reason's not even that important, but she did a full 180. And she was like, yeah, we'll lend you the money, go to South Africa. And I was like, what? God is real, guys. This thing is powerful. And so anyways, that's how I ended up going to South Africa. And even literally, oh, there's a little spider! Literally, even like up to the day before of leaving to South Africa, there was actually a lot that went down. And until like literally the day before my flight was departing, I was praying and I was seeking God, and I was like, Lord, is this what you want me to do? I was like, Lord, are you sure? Is this something that you want me to do? Are you opening this door? And long story short, at the end, got very strong confirmation, and it was like a yes. And so that's how I ended up in Port Elizabeth, South Africa. And it was a life-changing year. South Africa literally became my second home. It is my favorite country I've ever been to. I had an incredible year with incredible people, blah blah blah, but you guys probably know this by now. I think I changed as a person. My faith grew exponentially. And yeah, I can say from the bottom of my heart that I'm so glad that Canada didn't work out, and I'm so glad that I was in Japan during that time, and I'm so glad that the Lord eventually led me to South Africa. Yo, like, remember that verse I was talking about in the beginning of the Isaiah of my thoughts are higher than your thoughts, my plans are better than yours. And I feel like that is exactly what happened. Like, going to Montreal, Canada, to me at the time, I thought there was not a plan that would beat this master plan of mine, but the big guy up there said no. He was like, And it was really cool because I became a Christian when I was 19, and this happened when I was 20. So like, it's cool when you give your life to the Lord and he just takes you on a full, like, just adventure that is so much better than you were expecting. I'm still so keen to go to Latin America. Not so much Canada, I don't really mind. Well, like, I don't know why I wanted to go to Canada so bad. Like, South Africa is there's so much more flavor. But anyways, thank you for watching until the very end. If you have, you are a flippin' legend, because this is probably going to be a very long video. And if you're a Japanese speaker, please go support the new Japanese channel. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, guys, until the end. I hope you have a good day or good night wherever you are, and God bless. Ciao, ciao.